Welcome back, everybody, to episode 35 of the What's He On About Cricket podcast. We're settling in for a quick test review. We're going to dive into the England post-game or end-game antics. We've got maybe a little thought about whether the pitches are becoming an issue here in England. Was Dawson's opportunity missed? And we'll do a bit of player ratings. I'm joined by the infamous cricket content creator, Charlie Cooke. How you getting on, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I feel incredibly rattled at the moment. There is a lot of discourse online about handshakes and draws and moral victories and things like that. And all of a sudden, I've gone back to Bairstow stumpings, Australians calling us cheats, and the holders of the moral ashes and different things like that. All those memories have started to come back. So I'm glad that I've got a platform to talk about it today because I've got a lot to get off my chest.
Well, unfortunately, you're just gonna have to wait a little bit before we dive into that. But I'm all for diving headfirst into everything. Just trying to keep a neutral view on all this is quite complicated. But let's have a look at the test. India scored 358, 50s for Sai Sudarshan, Jaiswal, and Pant with a broken foot. But Stokes is 5 for 72 with the highlight, 3 for Jofra. But then the pitch got flatter, didn't it? England reply with 669, 50s for all the top three, 150 for Root, 141 for Stokes. Root went past Ponting, we'll talk about that. Jadeja bowled 4 for plenty, and then the pitch got flatter again. Then India batted out for the draw, 425 for 4. But before we go on to the end game antics, let's have a little talk about Ben Stokes. 5 for and 141 in the test match, bowled 35 overs. Is prime 2019 Stokes back, Charlie? And also, can he possibly hold it up for the Ashes?
I think he's not quite back. He's not 2019 Stokes. We're getting 2019 Stokes performance. Unfortunately, we've got 2025 Stokes' body. When he was bowling on day five, I genuinely thought he might lose an arm here. But there's going to be an arm that comes off, maybe a leg. The hamstring is going to go. But he seemed to hold up for a time. It would have been nice for him to bowl a bit more on that day five, which I'm sure we'll get into. But he looks incredible. He's looked so good with the ball, and he's out bowled Bumrah for the whole series so far. Not many other bowlers can say that they've done that. And you add on to the fact of now he's scoring runs. He was starting to look a little bit better at Lords. And now he's looked incredible for his 141 at Old Trafford this week.
It's incredibly worrying, isn't it? Watching him bowl. You're constantly just thinking he's going to go off in a minute. He's going to take a wicket and he's just going to walk off. I mean, I've never seen it quite like that from Stokes, where he got to about 70 and then just elected himself to leave. No physio came on, no doctor told him to go off. He just went off. He didn't fancy it. Do you reckon he thought maybe the game was drifting or he wasn't really needed at that point? Why do you reckon he just steamed off the pitch without anyone really telling him to?
I think it was a case of that they wanted to get on with it a bit. And he felt like him in the middle at that point couldn't quite do the job that they wanted him to do. So he's kind of said, okay, I'll sit out. I can't remember because he was back with Root at the time
Smith.
when he goes off. So Jamie Smith then comes out and he thinks, okay, Jamie Smith can play some shots. Dawson can play some shots. Wokes can play some shots. Cast can play some shots. And I think the plan is for him to sit out and then come back the next day. Unfortunately, Smith goes for 9, Wokes goes for 4, and then you're thinking, okay, you're probably going to have to look at Ben Stokes now because we've lost too many wickets and the wickets keep tumbling. So I'll come back out. So I think that was the plan. I think the plan was him to come out on day 4 and then attack from there.
Yeah, it kind of brings me on to the next question there, Charlie. I, some part of my brain thinks this wasn't a very Bazball-like performance. I was expecting a kind of outrageous declaration at some point. I thought, I know the pitch was flat. I know that Stokes would have been thinking that, the only way we can win this is if we bat once. But was this game a little bit against Bazball, maybe leading to the frustrations later on in the game? Do you think maybe they could have declared a bit earlier, maybe with a lead of about 200? Maybe try and invite India back into the game, which might have produced some opportunities. What do you reckon?
I think you probably see that if we're 2-1 down.
Mm,
But being 2-1 up, as much as it's against Basel, what they try to do is what they did in Pakistan in the first test and bat long, bat big, lead of 300. India have been out in the field for 160 overs. The mind goes, all of a sudden, you've lost 2 early wickets and then they keep falling like they did for us at Edgbaston, like they did in this game. But unfortunately, the wickets didn't keep falling,
mm.
was the issue. I had no problem with England batting on. They did exactly the right thing in my book. You'd rather, if you were going to have to say you declared, what did we have, a lead of 311, I think it
Yeah.
was. So if you declare with a lead of 200, and then you've got to score those extra 111 runs after you've been in the field for 150 overs, or would you rather score them now when India have been in the field for 110 overs? Seems like the easier option when you've got a tired Boomer, Siraj was limping, and it was just grinding them down. Bit old school, but I think it was still Bazball, and they scored pretty quickly in that first session on day 4.
Yeah, it kind of seemed it was England's best chance of getting a win, but it was also kind of India's best chance of getting a draw in the same kind of decision making. And I think as that pitch got incredibly flatter, it then opened it up for Gill and Sundar and Jadeja to do what they do. But let's have a little talk before we talk on those antics. Joe Root's 150. Let's have a little think. All right, he's just gone past both Callis, Dravid, and Ponting now into the number 2 spot. He's 2,500 runs behind Tendulkar. Statisticians were working out maybe 3 years he needs. Are you back en route to keep up this form? He's 34 at the minute, turning 35 at the end of the year. Can he keep this going and overtake the great Sachin, Charlie?
He'll walk it. He'll absolutely walk it. I can't see he's 34. Okay. He's not 36, 37. You're thinking, oh, okay, can he stretch it out for another 2, 3 years? So I heard, I think it was on the radio, and they worked out that most likely, if he carries on this form, it will be England's tour to India in 2028, I think, is the chance that they'll have to do it. Well, that's not that far away. That's 2.5 years. It's not a ridiculous thing to say he's going to do it. And it doesn't look like he's starting to look like he's going to retire, or the form's starting to drop off. And there's lots of people saying, oh, well, this could be his last. I think he could go another away Ashes. I think he's got another 4 years in him at least.
I always find it interesting because the time where I start to realize someone's really getting on is when we talk about this could be their last Ashes or this could be their last Ashes down under. And until you just said said that about his Ashes in a few years' time, I can't remember anyone saying, "Oh, the next Ashes will probably be his last," which shows that everyone thinks he's easily got 3, maybe plus years in him. Um, Here's the next question about Root. Last question about Root is some people have said he's not a great until he gets it down under 100. What do you reckon?
He's still a great. He's going to be a great whether he scores 100 in Australia or not. It doesn't. It doesn't matter. Cricket happens outside of Australia, and yeah, the Australia bit is important. I get it, and it's one of your biggest rivals, and it would be a nice thing to have in the CV. If he doesn't score that 100, he's still going to be England's greatest ever batter. It's not. I don't understand it. If only performances against Australia count, then Stuart Broad is the best bowler of all time because he's taken the most wickets against Australia. That's basically what you're saying. And also Shane Warne, Ricky Ponting, Don Bradman, they don't count. 0 runs, 0 wickets for them lot because they've never done it against Australia. Come on.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can't look at that top test run scorer leaderboard and see Root at number 2 and not see him as England's best batter of all time. And the thing is, when you look at Alistair Cook, when he was briefly in the top 5 at an average of about 45, 46, you could kind of have that feeling of, oh, well, he's played a lot of games. He was opener. That makes it a bit more tricky. But Root's averaging close to 52 now. And you just think this guy's ridiculous and can't not be considered a great. But now the time has come, Charlie. I'm going to open the floor to you. But first, I'll just, give a little brief look for the people who didn't see those last few minutes of the game, where India's batters, Sundar and Jadeja, were on 80 and 89 not out, batting out for the draw. They batted slow all day up to this moment. And Stokes with 15 overs to go. The draw is inevitable. Goes to shake hands with Jadeja and Sundar. Jadeja then looks up to Gill, and Gill remains unmoved. And a lot of words are said, including Jofra Archer saying, if you wanted to have hundreds, you should have batted like it earlier. But Duckett and Stokes had a pop as well. Do you think this was right from England, Charlie? Floor's yours.
I think it was right for England to offer the draw when they did. They'd had enough. They thought that there wasn't a chance of a win, so they're going to go over and shake hands. Should Stokes have gone over, walked across the pitch, and with his hand out to show the cameras that he's starting to offer a draw? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe he just should have had a quiet word with Jadeja and thinking, okay, we're going nowhere here. What do you think about it? And when India said no, they had every right to say no. Of course, they deserved centuries. They should have had them. Okay. I don't have any issue with anything that happened on that cricket field. Okay. I get England's reaction. They've been out there for 150 overs. They've thrown away a test by bowling pretty badly on a very, very flat pitch that they've been given and haven't been able to win the game when they had a lead of 300. That is incredibly frustrating. You've been out there for 2 days. You've played all the bowlers, apart from Jofra, have played 4 tests in a row now. You're tired. You want to get off the field. The best part of playing cricket is not playing cricket. We know this, okay? In club cricket, in professional cricket, it doesn't matter. That beer after the game is the best part of cricket. And they wanted to get to that quicker, and India wanted to score centuries. And I completely understand why India wanted to score centuries. Did England go a little bit far with the sledging after and say, do you want to do this against Brooke and Duckett? Then, yeah, it was probably a little bit too far. But they've been out on the field for 2 days, as I said, and it just doesn't really seem to matter that much. The issue that I've had is that now all of social media is now saying that England are the worst team to ever go out there, moral victories, and we must play how Stokes wants to play. And Stokes is. Someone wrote an article on ESPN Crick Info today saying that we must not play to Stokes' morals or something like that. And I'm thinking, just ask them if they wanted to draw. And when they said no, they said, okay, you're gonna get 100 off Harry Brook, are you? Knowing that he's the one that's bowling Harry Brook, I don't understand. Of course, Stokes is going to say, let's get off. Let's go. Mm. Do we need to be told by Indians and Australians that we don't run cricket? We know we don't run cricket. India run cricket. We know that already. It's frustrated me so much today. And because I really didn't have a problem with what went on the pitch. I thought it was so bad. I've had people telling me that Stokes should be banned for the next 2 matches and that he should be stripped of the captaincy for his actions that he had on the pitch in the last 15 minutes. I don't get it.
Well, mate, you don't sound too rattled about that. But I think it's incredible to me. I thought, again, it was absolutely fine. For a minute, I was actually on England's side, saying, are you at that point now where personal milestones matter that much? But then the camera kind of panned to some, Indian children with their India tops on, like looking on, praying for a couple of hundreds. And then at that moment, I was kind of more in India's shoes, thinking, actually, you know what? Let them get there. They've actually earned their socks off here. But it kind of felt when they scanned up to Shubman Gill, who was in the changing room, completely stone faced, nothing going on in his facial expressions. And every time the draw was offered, he just didn't move. Do you think he was trying to, make England a wilt out there? Or do you think it was all for his players, or a little bit of both? He looked quite happy letting England suffer.
I think it was a bit of both. I mean, my perfect scenario when Stokes got a bit stroppy that they didn't take the draw was that India batted until there was 3 overs left. Then they declare, so there's 2 overs for the changeover, and make England bat for 1 over. And say, don't worry, lads, this time you can take as long as you want, because they got so upset about that 1 over that took 7 minutes. They can have one that can take 20, half an hour, it doesn't matter. That's what I would have done, because I'm incredibly petty. So no, I don't. I think Shubman Gill didn't play up to it enough. I think there should have been more shithousery than there was.
It felt like a little bit of a fizzer of a way to end the test, which, it was going quite a nice direction. There was, a lot in it for the England side, and India were fighting out for the draw. And for it to end like that, was it a little bit of a dampener on the whole series? Do you think it might kind of reduce how much is going on in the fifth test, or do you think it's livened it up a bit more at the Oval?
I think everyone will forget about it in by day three of the Oval, and no one will care anymore because something else is going to happen. Just
Yeah.
like no one cares that Gill had an 8 minute massage on the pitch at Lords and that Crawley and Duckett took 7 minutes to bowl one over. That's what happens in cricket. Okay, everyone was telling me that people aren't going to forget this. I'm like, yeah, people move on. It happens. It's not this massive cheating scandal that's going to go on for years. It's just they got a bit umpy at the end of the day when they should have won the game and didn't and wanted to go home. Okay, it's not the end of the world. Can everyone just calm down about it? We don't need to have this big rigmarole that Stokes should be stripped of his captaincy and England shouldn't play Test cricket again.
Oh, this is excellent venting, Charlie. I feel the
Hmm.
pressure being released right now. But final thing on that, which is I get the sense England, in the words of Pep Guardiola himself, the nice guys never win. I'm sure someone else more important said that before Pep Guardiola. But do you think that this is what we need to see from England? We've had years of no disrespect to Joe Root, the captain, but we weren't exactly Trojans fighting in the wars, were we? But under Stokes, do you think that this kind of no nice guy attitude is what we need to win a few games down under? Could that be what we need? Is that the good signs? Do you reckon?
I think it helps some players. I think Bryden Cast, Jofra Archer, Ben Stokes, people like that can take a lot of kind of being under pressure. I think Zach Crawley plays a knock like he did in the first innings because there was a bit of needle at Lords. I
Mm.
don't think that happens otherwise. I think players need that kind of extra level to go to, whether that's a bit of sledging or whatever it is. We've seen Australia did it for 30 years and were incredible throughout that whole run,
Mm.
but they weren't very nice blokes at the same time. Okay. Up until sandpaper, they must have been horrible to play against, but they were very good during that period. I just think that if some people need that to get up at a very, very low level, I needed that when I played cricket. I needed to get in people's faces and take the mick and sledge and do all the things that you'd think you'd walk off the pitch and think that bloke's an arsehole. I needed to do that to get myself up for that game and get into the contest. And some people do. And I don't have a problem with anything that has gone on in this series. I just
Mm.
don't. I don't see any issues.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, little personal story from me. I was playing on Saturday where a team knocked 412 against us in a 50 over game, and at about 250 for none. Uh, we got a wicket. Then number three came out. We were dead on our feet, completely quiet out there. And number three just thought it was the right time to start, giving some serious chat to our bowlers. And it completely rolled us all up. And we got that a few overs later. There's no point. This lad came in with 250 on the board. But anyway, some games need a bit of needle. We've drifted a little bit from the point there, but no, Zach Crawley's definitely a player who loves that kind of stuff and could be good for the Ashes. Let's have a little chat about the pitch and England pitches, Charlie. Lancashire, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, have drawn all their home games at Old Trafford in the County
Yep.
Championship this year. No surprises then that India batted out 140 odd overs in, let's say, subcontinental conditions. Since when were home conditions not really a thing in England anymore? It feels like India are doing it, Pakistan are doing it. Why aren't we doing it?
I, we haven't, but the pitches this year are especially bad. Like they're the worst they've been since I've watched cricket. I mean, they are terrible. And I think where most people stand with test match pitches is if seam bowling is on top, test cricket is more exciting. I think that's kind of everyone's kind of cup of tea. Is if
Yeah.
the fast bowlers are slightly on top of the batters, you get if you get Jadeja and Ashwin bowling away for 20 overs and you're all out for 12, it's not very exciting. You get Rabada, Bumrah, Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark all flying in on a green seamer and the ball's nipping everywhere. That's exciting. So I think that's where I sit. That's the pitches that I would like to see. I just think that they are trying to produce kind of fast, bouncy pitches and just haven't been able to do it. Whether it's the weather hasn't helped this year, it just really feels like, apart from this week, it just hasn't rained all summer. And it's just been a struggle. I mean, you go around club cricket now, and how many of the outfields are pretty dry and no grass on the pitch and
Yeah.
different things like that. It's happening all around the country, and I don't think that's helping. Um, I just think they've got to find a better way to do it. I've got some hope in the Oval having some life in the pitch, although Surrey scored 820 a couple of weeks ago. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure how much hope I have, but at least they've got the money to put the pitch together.
Yeah. I was about to say, I don't know what Dom Sibley's triple ton will be thinking about that comment there. But it just raised the question, why is Wokes playing in this team if we're producing the flattest wickets ever? And also, the World Test Championship was a belter, a cracker of a test match. And, you could argue, yeah, that was earlier in the season. But it was so dry running up to that test match, and still Lords managed to produce a green nibbler. There's potential it's something to do with what England want from these surfaces, maybe. But I think again, I don't disagree with you there, Charlie, about the weather being pretty irresistible to make dry, flat pitches. But talking about flat pitches, um, Liam Dawson couldn't get it to work, could he? Maybe this was the perfect opportunity. Day four and day five, he had those opportunities to take wickets, but he did hold up an end. So here comes a question. Are England looking for a wicket-taking spinner or a hold up an end spinner? What do you reckon?
I think it's going to sound really odd, and I've really thought about Liam Dawson for a long time now since this test finish because I didn't think he was great on day five. I thought he wasn't quite attacking enough, and it's not really what Liam Dawson does. He is a hold up the end bowler. However, England's obsession with bowling first means that you usually have to bowl on a day one pitch, which he did, and I thought he did really well with his 1 for 45 he had in the first innings. And then usually you have that tricky third innings where you're trying to set a total, you're trying to get enough runs, and you kind of don't know what to set. And I think that Dawson would be really, really good in that situation because it's okay, I need to score runs here, and I'm a little bit stuck if I just kind of see him off. I can't do that. I've got to try and play attacking shots. Dawson is not very good when someone is trying to bat out for a draw. That's not what he does. I think he'd be perfect for England. Say, for instance, I'm trying to think, the first test at Headingley. Perfect scenario. We're trying to keep India down to a total, so we don't have too much to chase in the last innings. Bashir went for runs and got criticism for it, rightly so. In that situation, Dawson would have been better than Bashir. I think in this situation, Bashir might have been better with Dawson. If you're just talking about the bowling, the fielding, although he dropped a catch and he only got 26 runs with the bat, it's more than what Bashir's done in the whole series. So he gives you that depth. So for what England need, I think Dawson would be perfect. Unless you're in this scenario, then don't pick any of them. Pick Ryan Ahmed.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to that in a second because he had a scintillating week's cricket whilst Dawson got a one for bowling, I don't know, 50 plus overs in the test match. But I heard someone saying it. I think it was today actually, where Bashir, the thing which makes Bashir so good is that he takes wickets with long hops, is basically what he said. And then the fact that he is inconsistent enough to bowl horrendous deliveries makes him more of a wicket taker, which seems baffling to me. But Rian Ahmed, as you say, this week for Leicestershire, batted at number three, got 115. Then in the first innings with the ball, took 6 for 51 in 20 overs. And then in the second innings, got 7 for 93. So that's 13 wickets in the match. Tom Hartley, the left armer from Lancashire, batted at number 10, got 130, putting on 212 for the 10th for the ninth wicket, sorry. Then he went and bowled 6 for 116 in the first innings, and then got a 5 for in the second innings, taking 11 in that match. So whilst Dawson had a pretty tough day out, his competitors did well. So let's say, Charlie, you're the head selector. All right, you're going into the first Ashes test, but one caveat: you've got 2 to 3 years where you've got to stick with that same spinner. All right. Dawson's 35, I think. You got 26 Hartley, 20 Rian Ahmed, and Bashir's 21. Who are you picking to stick with for those next 3 years for 5 tests in Australia?
See, it's really difficult because I wouldn't play a spinner in Australia. Um, but if I had to pick one now, um, it'd probably be it would probably be Rayan Ahmed, I think, because I think he's much more of an all-round talent, especially if we're going to get pitches like this in England. Because I think a bit of mystery in the wrist spin, while it might not work against India, who are so good at playing spin, it will probably work against Australia. It will probably work against South Africa and teams like that that aren't necessarily used to as much wrist spin as they are finger spin. So that's probably the way I'd go. And I think he's a better batter than Hartley. Hartley, I like Hartley, but I don't think that he's really in contention to be in the England team. I think it's between Dawson, Bashir, and Rian Ahmed. And if it was for the next 2 years, if it was for this World Test Championship cycle, I would have picked Dawson. But for that extra longevity, I think I'd probably go Rian Ahmed.
Interesting. I'm just thinking, let's say Dawson, what's Dawson got to do in that fifth test, do you reckon, to put him ahead of Bashir? So he's got a test against India at the Oval, and then the next test for England will be the first Ashes test. What's he got to do to go ahead of Bashir? Because currently, after that test, Bashir is still their number one spinner. They're going to pick first test in the Ashes. Let's be real. But do you reckon Dawson's got a chance getting in the Ashes? Do you think he's got a great chance? What do you reckon he's got to do?
Do you know what I genuinely think is his biggest issue is that he doesn't want to do what Stokes tells him to do
Hmm.
because he's got so much experience that it kind of looked like a couple of times that he was putting his arm around his shoulder and saying, "No, can you go round the wicket this time and try and attack the left-handers stumps and things like that?" And Dawson's saying, "No, I'm used to this in county championship. This is how I want to bowl. This is how I think I'm going to take my wickets." I think that's going to be Dawson's biggest problem. And it was probably the same reason he didn't get into the team going back to that India tour at the start of 24, because he kind of spoke out and said, "I don't want to carry the drinks." And England, rightly so, said, "Well, if you don't want to carry the drinks, you're not going to be first choice. You're not going to be picked by us." And both sides were fine. I just think that I think Dawson would do a better job than Bashir now, but it's not for the spin bowling. It's for batting and fielding and all the other stuff that comes with cricket. So if you want to extend that batting lineup, then go with Dawson. If you're happy and think that Bashir's going to pick up a couple of wickets and you're fine for him going for 2 for 120 in Australia, then it's fine. Do that.
Yeah, it's interesting what England want in the Ashes, especially because you can be a team that wants a wicket taker all over the world, but then you go to Australia and you look at the spinners who've done well there, and actually they're spinners who hold up an end, and that's the like of Liam Dawson. So it's going to be an interesting debate for sure over the next, few months leading up to the Ashes. But personally, my pick, like you, if it's the next couple of years, Liam Dawson's, I think, a great shout to take us into the Ashes as a hold up and end bowler, but again, it still feels like a risk. But at this point, any spinner we play in Australia will be a huge risk, that's for sure. Right, let's go through our player ratings for England from this series, Charlie. All right, you're
Yeah.
going to go first with each one, and then I'll give my reply after I've had a little time to think about it. So, Charlie, Zach Crawley, out of 10, what are you rating him so far for the series? Had a couple of 50s, what do you reckon?
5.
I'd absolutely agree with you at number 5. Hopefully it's not too boring, and I do a few different numbers to you. Ben Duckett, what's next?
I think you've got to give him a seven. That 150 in the or 149 or whatever it was in the first test, and then the 94 in this one. Bit
Yeah.
quiet in the couple in the two in the middle, but I think a seven's probably fair.
Yeah, I think I gave him a six just because he had quite a dry spell running up to that. So did Zach Crawley, to be fair. But running up to this test, I felt like he had a great outing in the first test, but then just combined quite a few consecutive tough results. Let's have a look at Ollie Pope. What do you reckon?
Again, probably five. I feel like he's had a very similar series to Zach Crawley. Really, I kind of count his 100 and Zach Crawley's 60 odd that he scored in that test about the same. And again, his Crawley's 84 and Pope's 71 about the same again. So that's basically been and also Zach Crawley wasted some time, which was better than what Ollie Pope did. So I think four or five, I'm around there.
Interesting. I think I'd probably give him a six. I feel like that 100 for him was a huge moment to show he could do it against a big team. Whilst Zach Crawley's hit a couple of big 50s, it still feels like he's not had the series he wanted. Let's look at Joe Root, the GOAT. What do you reckon?
Nine, got to be
Mm,
in it. A couple of it was quiet to start off in the first and second test, if I remember rightly.
yep.
Scored a 50 in the chase.
Mm.
Did he have another 50 in the second test? I can't remember now. But obviously back to back hundreds that he scored in the last two tests. So I think a nine.
You got to give him a nine. But when you think relatively, Joe Root's a pretty good player, but I agree. Nine, it is. Harry Brook, 150 was the big one. But other than that, what's he done for you? He's bowled a pie to Jadeja to give him his 100. What do you reckon?
Brook for me gets a six. A six, maybe a seven. He scored that 99 in the first test as well, didn't he? Um, so yeah, six. I feel like I'm happy with. I was expecting slightly more from him in this series. I thought his
Yeah,
dismissal in this game was stupid.
yeah, I tend to agree with you. It's been below par for what Harry Brooks started out as, and if you look at roll up some of these pitches he's played on, there's some seriously Harry Brook wickets, which he would have liked to have done better on. Ben Stokes took a bit of time to grow up into it, but what a test on last week. What do you reckon for Ben Stokes?
Um, it's got to be nine, isn't it? Nine, 10? Are we going for a 10 for Stokes? He's been our best bowler.
Yeah.
He was a bit worried with the bat in the first few tests, but scored the 100 in this one. If he doesn't play, we're losing possibly 4-0. Um, I think nine, I'd be happy with.
Yeah, you see, when you put it like that, I was gonna say eight actually, because I felt like as an all-rounder, his batting really didn't, rise up to where he'd want it. But I think it's more the impact he's had on each game, isn't it? As a captain and as a
Hmm.
bowler in particular, he's been incredible. I'll stick to eight just because I think his batting could have been a bit better, even though he got 140 in the last dig. Jamie Smith, far away.
Oh, had that really good 100, didn't he? The 50 or two that he's had a couple of 50s now. Didn't score runs in this test. I'm going to go eight, Jamie Smith.
You see, I was gonna go 10. Just because I think, yeah, he's got
Really?
a catch, but I think as a keeper batter, he had a good year last year. But I think that he, as what we can expect from our number seven, I think he's been absolutely quality. So I'm going to give him a number 10, even though he didn't have a great first dig or in the last test. But he didn't only bat once in this last test. So if you're going to bring up some stats to fire me down for his number 10, that's what I'm going for. Quick rating on Liam Dawson's last test.
Four.
Yeah, I'd have said three. I mean, it's a small sample size. We'll rate him properly after the next test. Wokes, what do you reckon?
Oh, a two? Is that too much? I mean, he's been our worst player um, by far, probably. Hasn't really. Did he score a 40 in this test? Am I imagining that in this series at one point? A 30 or a 40 or something like that?
The odd, but
He scored a 38. He's averaging 10 with the bat, and he is averaging. Let's have a look at his wickets. Wokes, 10 with the bat, 52 with the ball.
nice. Good series for
Two.
the rounder.
Yeah. If only it
Yeah,
was the
two,
other way around.
two for me as well. I mean, he hasn't been served up the best tracks to bowl his nibblers on, has he? But Nonetheless, let's go to Bryden Cast. I think he's had a mixed series. I think he's averaging 220 against left-handers, only taking one wicket or something incredible. But what do you think about Bryden Cast? On the whole, he's been pretty good to the righties.
I think three. I
Mm,
really haven't been impressed with him. And he gets higher than Wokes because he's been better than Wokes with the bat.
mm,
That's kind of, if it was just him as a bowler, I'd give him a one, with the exception of 4 overs that he had at the end of day four at Lords. I just think he's been really bad.
yeah,
I don't think he's been able to find a line of length. I don't think his pace has been fine, but the pitches haven't helped. But these are the pitches that Cast is meant to be good on.
yeah. I slightly repel in terms of at Lords. I think he played a bigger role in that final innings, and I think perhaps you put on there. I think you know that as well, but it just felt like for me, Brian Cost was a huge part of that Lord's test, and which could be put aside with maybe a big 50 from a Zach Crawley or something. So I've given him a four, and I think he's batted well, as you say. Helped out the lower order. Jofra Archer's return. What are you saying?
Oh, 6 for
Hmm.
Jofra. I thought he was really good at Lords, with the exception of one or two spells. And I thought he was okay in this test. I thought he was good in the first innings. Second innings just looked like he'd given up.
Yeah. And then yeah, so I'll probably say five, just because I think that he could have given a lot more to the series, but we're pretty close hands there. Right, Bashir and Tung, couple people
The
back to backers. What do you reckon?
Bashir, I'm gonna say three. I think a couple of important wickets in there. And then Tongue, I'd give a five.
Mm. Yeah, I've gone two and four just to be a bit different, but I think Tung did pretty well against the tail in the first couple of tests, and Bashir I think hardly did anything, did he? So India have won twice in the last 17 in total test matches between England and India at the Oval. So what can we expect, do you reckon, Charlie, from the Oval pitch? Is it going to be a motorway? Is it going to be a flat pitch for England to win the toss and bowl first on? Who's it going to suit? What do you reckon?
I mean, a draw would benefit England, wouldn't it? I mean, are we at that stage? Are we playing out for a draw already? 3 days out from the test. I think the pitch is going to have a little bit more in it than we've seen, just because I think that the Oval can produce a pretty good pitch. I think it will have decent bounce. I think it will have decent pace in it, a decent bit of carry. I know Surrey scored 800 and whatever it was on it, but it was slightly different. Was also with a Kookaburra ball. So not too worried about the pitch. Do either side have a bowling attack to put into the game? I'm not 100% sure. England call up Jamie Overton today. Um, India have said that Bumrah isn't going to play more than 3 tests this series. Does Bumrah play? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know where either of the teams sit and if they've got anyone left to play.
Well, let's talk England's bowling lineup because you got three incredibly tired blokes and Wokes, Carse, and Archer. Jamie Overton, as he said, has been brought in, although he did bowl 14 overs, 0 for 81, going at sixes in Surrey's championship game against Yorkshire. Any room for him to come back in, or maybe a Sam Cook to bowl on one of those flat surfaces, which we know he's good at, although he's more well known for maybe his Kookaburra ball work of late. But what do you reckon? Any change for England bowlers?
Yeah, I think they've got. I think they've got to change all three. Uh, Yeah, I think they do have to. I think you have to go Overton, Tongue, Atkinson. Because I don't see how the other three are fit. They've just bowled 150 overs and they're going to play a test 3 days later.
Yeah.
You can't do that. They bowled 250 overs in that test. You can't possibly play another test 3 days later after coming off the back of. You can't risk Archer. Archer's definitely not going to play. Wokes was slow to start with. God knows what he's going to have with 250 overs in his legs. Um, and Cast looks like he's about to fall apart as well. I think you
Mm,
have to go a full new attack. If you want to play Wokes. And I think Dawson will play. I
yeah.
don't have any qualms about that. I think it does depend on Stokes' fitness a little bit. I think
Mm.
if Stokes is fit to bowl and bowl a decent amount, then you can maybe stay with Blokes or Cars. But if Stokes isn't ready to bowl a load of overs, then I think you've got to change all three of them.
Yeah, I agree. It's quite a surprising thing to hear when you say change all three bowlers, but you look at Wokes and you think there's no way that bloke can play another Test match and bowl anywhere near his top. You look at Cars again, he's played all four, no way. And then you think actually Archer's probably the only one who actually might have the fitness to do it. And then you realise that Archer is Archer with his previous fitness. So actually changing all three is not out of the window, but I can't quite see England doing it. Maybe Gus Atkinson should come in. He's back. And a Surrey man, of course. Bowled a few overs for Surrey second 11 last week. Just finally, before we do a prediction, Charlie, same question for India. You know, do they play Bumrah? Do they play maybe a Kuldeep Yadav, the Indian fans have been screaming for this guy to play? And is Siraj spent? Is that bloke Cambodge going to get another go at it? What do you reckon, Charlie?
I think they'll bring in Prasid Krishna.
Hmm.
I think he'll come in. I don't think they play Kuldeep because I don't see the point of playing three spinners.
Mm.
Although Jadeja and Washington have proved that they can kind of bat anywhere. Um, uh, do they risk Bumrah? I don't think they can. I really don't think that they can because if he breaks, there is a meltdown because everyone will say, well, you said he was only fit enough to play three tests, and now you've played him four to try and win the series or draw
Yeah.
the series, and it's done. Doesn't so I don't think they can play him. I think they might. Gautam Gambhir's come out and said that all the seamers are fit. I don't trust anything that comes out of the India camp. So I think Prashant Krishna will play. If Arshdeep's fit to play, I think you'd have to play him. Siraj is an interesting one. Um, I think they'll go Siraj, Arshdeep Singh, Prasid Krishna.
Yeah, I'm really not far away from that. I think if India had a chance to win the series, maybe they'd play Bumrah if they'd won that game. However, they haven't won a game this series with playing Bumrah, and as you say, that it's an incredibly bold call to play him. But yeah, I think Siraj, although he looks dead on his feet, probably has to bowl in that last game as the man to hold up the ship for India. And I don't know why Cambodge came in for Krishna. I'll never know. But final question, Charlie. It's been lovely having you on. You've been a class guest as always.
Thank you for having me.
Um, Prediction time. Fifth test. I don't want just your prediction. I also want something outrageous, which is sounds impossible, but not quite impossible. What do you reckon? Prediction time.
England win.
Sure.
That's my prediction on what's going to happen in the game. Something outrageous that's going to happen in the game. Um, I think we're going to have at least three spirit of cricket debates at some point. Um, Ben Duckett scores a ton. Gus Atkinson takes five.
Wow. And when you say spirit of cricket debates, is that because of something bad that's happened or something miraculously good?
Something's bad has happened.
Okay.
There's been some time wasting. And not quite. We're not ball tampering yet. There's no sandpaper before the Australians get excited. We're just going to have. There's going to be some spirit of cricket debates, and all the stuff that's happened at the end of this Test match is going to be forgotten about because Jadeja's tied Ben Stokes' shoelaces together while he's at the non-striker's end.
Brilliant, Charlie. Thank you so much for coming on. I'll put all his details down below. You probably know him already, but he's a big gun on all the social media platforms. So make sure to go and check him out and leave a review whilst you're at it. Make sure to follow wherever you can, and also make sure to ask yourself, what is he on about? Cheers.